What do you think the cause of lower back injuries? This is from Paul Check. What do you think the cause of lower back injuries, because it fits this podcast, was like the most lower back injuries? What do you think the cause of that was for all of his clients?
Deadlift?
Money.
Is it good?
Oh, yeah, money.
Money problems.
Yeah, here we go. Yeah.
So I was like today, that's such a good like intro to, because like a spiritual investor, right?
Yeah, well, safety and security, right?
Yeah, safety, security.
Yeah. So I guess we should get into that. It always goes off the top here with these, and it's the way we like it. But because the term spiritual investor, what does that represent to you, for us and the listeners listening?
Yeah, well, I started out with the investor part.
Yeah.
So I worked on a trading floor for over a decade and traded oil and, natural gas and electricity. And it was great, but I just knew that I didn't want to like live in that environment I didn't want to like just keep going there. It was like living in the Matrix, right? 12 hours, like no phone calls, just like, and so I used investing to buy my way out of it because I didn't want to, I'd already done the travel thing, like with the backpack and, all of that. I was like, I don't want to live on no money. So how could I retire myself, so to speak, and cover my full cost of living? That was my goal, which I did at 39. And I did that with, investing in the stock market. And, I started investing in real estate early on, like around 2009, right after the financial crisis. And so
Nice.
it really worked out because I was in California too, San Diego. And so, they were giving houses away at that time.
Really? So this was after
Yeah.
the .com bubble. Really?
Well, this was after the financial crisis. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because like
Yeah.
I would have been 15, 16 at that time. So I remember when it sort of happened, but not really understanding what was happening.
Mhm.
Only from the movie The Big Short, I sort of got a bit of
Yes.
more understanding of it. So what was it?
Yeah.
So you invested. What was those house prices just low at the time, and you just got in, like you timed it well?
I did. And I had really just started working in my corporate career at that time. And so I didn't have a lot of money. And so at that time, you could get pretty much any house you wanted. Just like everything was just on short sale. And people weren't buying them because when you bought them, you couldn't actually get the people out of them. So they had like what they call squatters. And so it was like people were staying there and then the laws were in favor of the people staying there. And so basically people didn't want to buy during that time because they didn't want to assume the mortgage. Plus, like everybody was struggling. A lot of people were struggling. They couldn't buy. Um, my secure job is what allowed me to do it. And, I only had $25,000, but I was like, okay, I'm just gonna put everything I have towards this and, try and do as much stuff as I can myself. And I bought a duplex was the first. And then ended up, the mortgage was, I think, $1,800 on it. And then, so basically one of the apartments paid for the mortgage. And then the other one, which I think I rented for around 2000, it was 2000 cash flow. And then I was
Wow.
like, okay, great. Then I started investing that in the market. So it was kind of a double whammy. It was like you had your pick because everybody was scared and you got really high cash flow on the things like that. And then after that, I bought a home that was specific. I knew I was going to do a vacation rental, but no one was doing vacation rentals there. That's the thing. Like I'm always like looking at like what's new? Like what are the
Mm.
opportunities that like not many people are doing? Like it's
Mm.
almost like with me, if I've already seen 1,000 people do it, I'll just figure out something else. I
Yeah.
don't know if it's like the creativity that I'm seeking or what, but so there were only three vacation rentals in San Diego. So I didn't really know if it was going to
Wow.
work, if it was going to be a concept that was going to take off. This was in 2012.
Yeah.
And I remember Airbnb contacted me and they were like, we have a brand new website. Can we just come and take photos of your place and for free? I'm like, sure. And then that place, the cash flow on that place was huge because nobody was doing it. So I was then taking that money and I was putting that back into the market. So I was basically double dipping for a lot of years. And I didn't have an extravagant lifestyle necessarily. Like I didn't buy the new cars. I didn't actually remodel my own home. I kind of just lived with what it was. So, and it didn't feel like a sacrifice. What it felt like was like whenever I energetically get behind something, I get behind it. And that's
Mm.
kind of probably where the spirituality thing comes in because um when I was working on the trading floor, a guy joined the group and he was from India. And so he started giving me all these texts, like Hindu texts, and, you know, um, talking to me about it and all of that. And so I started weaving that into my life. And then I was like, wait, as soon as I put my energy behind something, yeah, it's the spreadsheet and it's the math. But that doesn't keep me involved. Like I feel like you can only be so energetically connected to even money, really.
Mm.
Mm.
Um, and so it was the love of it. And then I started donating a lot of the money to horse rescues, and then I sort of opened up a whole new area. And I've always had a bit of a what do I want to do to help? And how can I build a business that has an aspect that helps other people?
Mhm.
And that sort of it ties both elements together. And then when I left the corporate job, I wasn't planning on teaching people about money actually at all. And then I was at a kid's birthday party and someone's like, "Can you help me with my money?" And I'm like, "No, I don't do that." And then at the end of the party, I was like, "Okay," And it was great. I did 8 sessions with her and I started out with a meditation and I made a decision. I was like, if I'm going to teach people money, I'm going to teach them the way that I did it
Mm.
and where I got success. And I'd never seen anyone talking about it or anything. And I was like, but it makes sense. And it just kind of exploded from there. And that was 7 years ago now.
Wow.
So I've
Wow.
been the spiritual investor for 7 years. And now I've built up a great team and um, it's like a dream, but it's kind of just all happened.
Yeah, it's like the best things do. Hey.
Yeah, I reckon. And like just like what you said about energy and putting your energy fully into it because your heart wants to be in it is so
Yeah.
important. Like it's so hard to, you just won't be motivated if you're chasing the cars, or you might be motivated and you'll get them and you'll feel empty. So it's like there has to be like a
Yeah.
big driving force on the journey that has to, and I think what you said it perfectly is like, if you're not helping someone, then that, because that ultimately gives you fulfillment because you're serving the universe. You're uplifting the consciousness here. And I think that's super important. And you can't really, I don't know, I've always felt empty when I've chased material things or
Yeah.
things like that. You know what I mean? Even though I love them and I want them, I just understand that they're not what's going to fulfill me on a deeper level. And what you just explained then, I was like, that's such a good analogy or explanation of being fulfilled in your job. And I think people need to listen to that, and hear that
Mm.
and fully do that.
Yeah. What part
Mm.
of what part of it is your favorite part? Like
Mm.
is it you get someone that has no clue about money and then you watch them succeed, or what part of it lights your soul up the most?
That point where they switch. And I know that the switch is what's going to cause them to call in more money in their life because I'm always looking for the effortless path. Because it's like you said, you can go out there and you can make things happen, but then you're going to run into exhaustion and you're going to not feel fulfilled and all of this stuff. And I'm kind of like,
Mm.
why do it?
Yeah.
It kind of feels like a waste of time. And so my favorite part is because I feel like people have the answers within themselves. We all do.
Mhm.
But what happens is if you can hold up the mirror in the right way for someone, and you can also do it in a loving way because there is only love. Like there's money, love, abundance. All this is the same energy. And so the clearer that I am as an open conduit for someone that I'm helping, then actually what's happening is the reflection, they're actually seeing themselves in a really clear way. And when that happens, I feel that same love frequency. And so what it does is it puts me in a state of unconditional love. And I'm also in a state of my full power is with them. The key is I'm never seeing what I can get. And see, that's the key. And I'm not saying this because I'm such a grand person. I'm not any different than anybody else. It's a frequency, and people feel it because they feel like they've been seen. Because wherever I am, like even right now, nothing exists outside of this. Like all I'm doing, like my only concern, if you will, is being here with the two of you.
Mm.
And how can I offer to the listeners and to you? And then it's like I just pick this attention up and then I'll just go be with my horses or I'll pick up sticks or whatever. But whatever I'm doing, I'm always managing my energy to how can I bring the most power in that moment? And then I pull back and I manage my energy. And so
Mhm.
my life is actually on a high level because of the way I live it. And then that gets reflected in the work and helping people. So I don't know if that even makes sense, but it's
Mm.
kind of helping them and helping me is all one thing.
Yeah, I just shared a Marcus Aurelius quote this morning, and let me get it up because I sort of forget what it said, but it's on that topic. Oh yeah, concentrate every minute on doing what's in front of you. That's summates it pretty well, right?
Yep.
Because I'm not sure if I said on the podcast, but I was recently with a friend, and we were at the beach at the lake, and then I could see he was thinking about something, whatever, a stressor in his life. So it was a beautiful sunset with a dog, whatever, but he wasn't there, right? And I can see his mind is just tricking him lately. And then I thought about, like, you could be the homeless man on the beach walking, and you could be the multi-millionaire on the beach walking, but you're really just both on the beach walking. So you're living the same quality of life in that moment, but someone could be in their head thinking, oh, I got the family at home, I got this, or I don't have that. They're going to usually think what they don't have instead of what they have, right? And that's it. Like, I go to Europe in 4 weeks, and I'm like, yes, I'm in Greece, walking down, here, and so will this person probably on the street doing the same thing, And obviously,
Yeah.
I can pay for the what do you call it? I was about to say yeah, kebab. No, that's
Yeah.
Lebanese. That's Lebanese.
Pizza.
That's not Greek
No.
either.
Oh, what do they have? Like halloumi.
Yeah, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important to have like, I mean, what do you do to like cultivate energy? Like a method almost to look inside is so important for the younger people of today's age with the phones and the Netflix and everything always just being so stimulating. I think you almost got to plan your meditations so you do have that self-reflection time. Otherwise it just the ball just keeps rolling and you keep looking for the next thing and the next thing. Yeah. Is there anything you do that like has really helped you with that? I know you mentioned your horses. I know they're quite spiritual animals. Like, do you go spend time with them? And
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's kind of there's two aspects to it. So the meditation and the spending time, like you said, with my horses and in nature. So what that does for me is that opens up the space for something new to come in my life, like let's say an opportunity or like someone else, like a conversation or a connection or something like that. Like we can't actually allow anything in new unless we have that space. And we see that in our lives because like people get so busy and then life just passes them by and they're like, wait, I don't have time to do anything. Well, we haven't created any space for it, right? So that's kind of like on that mental energetic level, the meditation. Um, what I've really done, and this is something that has really shifted things for me in more, I would say more recently within the last 2 years, is looking at the entanglements in my life. Typically, whatever someone is doing and how they're behaving in their relationships in their life, whether it's family, friends, intimate relationships, it's typically similar to what they're doing with their money.
Mm.
And so there's a lot to be learned from that. And so looking at the entanglements, like within your relationships and having a greater responsibility that we create our own life. And that was really talk about, I said the
Mm.
switch, like the switch for me was when I really, really embodied in every cell of my body, I create my own life. Because if I create my own life, then I can never blame anyone else. And if I'm not blaming anyone else, I'm never giving my power away. And if I'm not giving my power away, I have more to bring to every moment. And so, really, everything comes down to energetic currency, and we're just trading energetic currency for money or for love or for connection or for food, or it's all energetic currency exchange. And when we get real about how we want to use it, then we're actually choosing.
Mm-hmm. The power of choice is so powerful, and I think that it's not talked about enough because you
You're
just get
right.
pinballed here, there, everywhere in your life. And some of it may be good, some of it may be bad, but on Spiritium lately, which is Paul Check's thing, he's been talking a lot about how the universe will never choose for you. It'll help. If you want to jump off a cliff and end your life, it'll support you. If you want to stay here and become a millionaire, it will support you. So ultimately the choice is left to you. And I was thinking a lot about that, and I was like, fuck, that is hectic. Like, we have choices to make every single day that either serve us or they don't. And you need to have some discernment in that. And that is where, I don't know, everything kind of came together lately. And I was like, fuck, okay, we need to be conscious about our choice and where we're putting our energy at all times, because that ultimately leads you, which is exactly what you just said then. But the emphasis on choice is so huge, and you have the power to change everything at the click of a finger.
Yeah, yeah.
You're
Uh,
exactly right. Yeah.
when you talk about spiritual investing, what comes to my mind, right? Because I remember I listened to Robert Kiyosaki. People who don't know who that is, that's the guy that wrote Rich Dad Poor Dad, and
Mhm.
plus other things, right? And he goes, like, when you talk about passion, people are passionate about things and whatnot. Like, how can you be passionate just about making money? And he goes, I'm not passionate about, he goes, I like making money. I like that, but I invest in things I'm passionate about. So he goes, I love avocados. Like, he goes, I love avocados. I want them all the time. Therefore, I invested in avocado farms in Hawaii or whatnot. So therefore, that's helping the world. It's food. Food's always, we're always going to need food, right? It's a big thing that I think about. Like, one day when we have that sort of money, I want to invest in organic farming and things that it'll feel good because it'll change the world.
Yeah.
And that will probably guide you to your right answer. And the other day, it's funny, I don't know why I said it, but I was sitting on the computer working, and I texted Jake. I go, it was probably like 8:30 at night, and I go, tomorrow's going to be a really good day. And I just texted him, right? And more so from my excitement, let's just make it a good day. I'll text him. And then he ended up calling me at like whatever that afternoon. He goes, how's these people called us, and they want us to go into a company with them regarding these other supplements and like really high end. We already do supplements, right? But I wouldn't say we're a supplement company. We have things that we care about. We got the Parasite Cleanse movement. It's a mix. It's a culture, corrective culture. It's a way of life, I guess we're selling of this. But I've never wanted to just go heavy down the supplement path. But I'm a big believer in whole food supplements. And they were like, they came because we want to be like the Thorn. You know the company Thorn at all? Oh, Thorn's like a supplement company in the US. They're probably the biggest in the world, right? But it's all synthetic. It's clean, but it's synthetic. And they market it towards athletes saying, yeah, you can take this and it won't have testosterone in it. This is where you get drug tested, right? It's going to be what we say it is.
Oh, I think I have creatine from them. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So we want to, they were like, we want to create these supplements, but purely out of whole foods. So they actually want to try and create a creatine out of food, which I don't think has been done. But like things like this, and I'm like, I can get behind that. I believe in that. I believe like instead of we're releasing an oyster product soon from New Zealand oysters, because I know everyone needs zinc. Everyone's low on zinc, but no one has oysters. So I'm like, I don't want to give them zinc. I want to give them oysters, and so I'm like, it's amazing how I guess that was a spiritual manifestation coming in. And
Yeah.
at the start, I was like, not sure if I want to do that. And then by the end of it, I was like, fuck, I could do this. The bottom line is it'll help people, So therefore, I feel
Yeah.
good about it compared to whatever. There's been so many opportunities come our way, and you center yourself and say, do I want to do this? Do I not want to do that? Because there's all these little things and people that will work you and help you and things like that. But it's an energy thing, hey, and it always guides us.
And I love how you said effortless was the word that came through earlier. And I really connected to that because it's like we are so taught, and especially down here, down under, that it's all about working hard and being on the job site and just like fucking slaving till you're dead, pretty much. Working for the
Yeah.
man, But if you look outside of that, if you read Rich Dad Poor Dad or whatever and you start a business, it's so much different to that. And effort, you put effort in, but a company can run itself. Like I've got a friend who has 40 companies and he sits back and he puts people in as equity partners and they run it. And he doesn't put
Yeah.
too much effort in. He oversees it. And I'm like, that's, like, why not? But like in my imposter syndrome, kind of the way I was brought up, I was like, you got to work hard. Don't sleep. You know what I mean? But
1 a.m. nights and stuff. Like, that's not true.
I know. And you can live life on your terms. Something I picked up earlier as well, which is like, which is what you're doing.
Yeah.
Mm.
I
Yeah, and it's really the only sustainable way because the other way is just going to end up
Burnout.
exhaustion, especially in the world that we live in. I mean, the world we live in now supports the effortless way.
God, that's good.
Yeah, that's true.
I think people could take a lot from that and just maybe just shift the mindset and be like, like maybe there is a life out there that doesn't require me working 12 hours, 80 hours a week or 60 hours a week to make minimum wage and pay off a house that stresses you. And there is that next level if you believe it, there is. And that's, like you said, put your energy there.
Well, think about all the people that's been in that financial crisis, right? Like all these wages, a house you're paying it for 20 years that now you can't afford.
Yeah.
Now the bank takes it. And I'm not sure. I think in the US it maybe is different. Like they just take the keys off you and then the debt's sort of paid. I'm not sure if that's the way. Over here it's not like that. If they take the keys off you and your house is worth $100,000 less than what you owe the bank, $100,000 still. You know what I mean? If they still sell it, so they don't just take the house. And that's where, especially now, like I guess you can feel the energy. It's uncertain times, and it's big debts, and everyone's concerned, and interest rates, and house prices went up nearly double here on the Sunshine Coast, which is crazy. Okay, and there's these. Like I remember thinking it was, that's way too expensive to get a house near the beach like that. Now I'm like, oh God, you got to spend $1 million. You got to be a millionaire basically to get a house on beachside, which is growing up. That was sort of anyone can do that here. It's different to over the States that you can get a house near the beach here for any good wage. A couple together could make it happen, right? On a normal wage. Now that's pretty well impossible for a 9 to 5, unless you're a surgeon, lawyer or something like that, to get a house that we've all been used to growing up in. Pretty well in the last 4 or 5 years, that's changed. So, but people are still doing it. They're just going into a way bigger debt. And if something just stopped, if all of a sudden China just didn't send construction wood over here, because this is a construction company, right? Everyone's a tradie most of the time. Then all of a sudden the income stops for 2 weeks and they can't pay off that. And it all just comes crumbling down. And I can sort of see it. I can see it in people I know. I can see it in the struggle, a little bit of a struggle there. And it's like something that people aren't really that talking about that much, but I can feel it, and I can. But so like in regards to that in your work, like how do you work with someone, and especially in those times, like do you see that as opportunity, or do you see that as calm down your spending habits, reflect on what you're doing, or how would you work with that? I know it's a hard question. I'm not even sure what the question is really, but let's see what you say.
Well, I think that we have a tendency to believe that as the world gets more hectic and more expensive and more contrast, that there is a diminishment of opportunities. But if we see the world that we're living in now, and we were kind of just talking about this, like the guy with 40 companies, it's actually the opposite. And so as the volume gets turned up on the contrast in life, so do the opportunities. The difference is who's going to see it. And so
Fully.
we're all just at the mercy of what we're willing to allow in. I mean, you could see this, like you can meet the greatest person and do you want to have a relationship with someone, you can meet this perfect person. And if you're not going to allow them in, or they're not going to allow you in, then it's like you're talking to a wall, right?
Yeah.
Like you just spend all this energy and it's just like, okay. So the same thing happens when it comes to opportunities, which is the source of money, because basically an opportunity is a channel for money to come in. And so the more diversified you are, whether it's in your portfolio or whether it's different channels of wealth, like you're talking about these products and things like that. So what you're doing is you're creating all of these different channels, and then you're basically just deciding where you're going to put your energy in these channels. And so where people get stuck in what you're talking about like you got to be a multimillionaire to even be able to get a house these days,
Mm.
right? Um, that is true, but that's not the only truth, because there's another truth, which is in between the space, there are a lot of opportunities for that individual, but not until they actually choose where they're going to place their attention and their energy, and then are they going to get behind something new?
Mm-hmm.
So it's more about, are you going to choose something new
Mm.
than it is adjusting and adapting to circumstances. But I think we've been raised as you got to stand in line and be quiet type of society. And we're still in that. We're still standing in line. The moment we believe that something is outside of us, we're still standing in that line.
Mm.
Yeah, it's so true. What advice would you have? I just bought a house around the corner here. First house. I had like a 200 grand deposit because my dad passed away and he left me a little bit of money.
Yeah.
What kind of advice would you give to someone who's just getting into the property kind of game? And yeah, anything that comes to mind?
Well, I think I would start looking at it in terms of like, what do you want your overall portfolio to be? I mean, obviously you're wanting that to be kind of part of your wealth portfolio,
Yeah.
right? I would assume.
Yes.
So, I always think of things as like a, you've seen the classic pie chart, right? And
Yeah.
so I think the difference really in kind of the way that I teach it in the spiritual investor is like you just have more pieces to the pie. I like to bring creativity into money though, because otherwise I'm going to be, I don't know, we get bored, right?
Yeah.
But like, so I would look at that as one slice of it. And so you're going to look at it like if it's a primary residence, then it's a little bit more challenging to make something like a true investment if it's a primary residence,
Yeah.
because we want the nicer kitchen and we want the nicer front door and all of that,
Mm.
like if something is a rental, you're like, okay, let me just put the regular doorknob on there.
Yeah.
So I would almost categorize those as two different things,
Yeah.
and then you can start sort of living into, because you're going to live into whatever you decide your story is now.
Yeah.
And your story is going to be based on obviously the vision, and you can kind of like start thinking of it like, well, do I want this to be a rental in 3 years? If I do, what decision would I make now to do that?
Yeah.
Um, I did a lot of like what they call over here, like the house hacking thing. I don't know how possible it is over there. So I would buy a place and then I would split it into two, or
Yeah.
I'd buy a place with like maybe 2 acres of land and then build like another smaller place on it,
Yeah.
like they call them ADU over here.
Yeah.
Um, it comes down to lifestyle too. Do you want that?
Mm.
Mm.
Well,
Like, do
yeah.
you know what you want for the house? Like, what do you want the house to do for you instead of the other way around?
Yeah, that's very smart. Well, it's such a nice little home near the beach, so it's like going to be my primary residence. So I want it to be like almost like my little heaven house, and have like
Yeah.
little like a sauna and rock stacks and water chargers and things like that. So I want it to be like basically a base. But I'm very interested in investing, and it does have enough room to put like a granny flat out the back because it's got like a separate driveway. It's a corner block and things like that. So I'm definitely thinking in the future of probably renting it and it being positively geared, and then using equity and moving closer to the beach or something. I don't know. Like, we'll see.
Yeah, like eventually you want something, you probably want something close to the beach one day, right?
Yeah.
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 But at the same time, you like, I have the
I'm
same
pretty happy.
feeling. Yeah, like I'm in a rental right now. I live with 3 other people,
Yeah.
and I'm getting that urge a little bit now. I'm like, all right, I want my own space, right? But I'll still live with someone else to help pay it off, because I actually enjoy that. Like
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I don't want to live in a house by myself, right? And I enjoy that, but I also want I don't want someone walking through my house every 3 months and telling me that fix the dog hole near the garden or some shit. You know what I mean? Like just that
Right.
level
Yeah.
of
Yes.
so not even about money. It's about just having your base, you know, where you don't have to
Yeah.
worry about the end of your lease, re-signing, that sort of stuff.
Mm.
But eventually, yeah, portfolios is what I imagine. And so when you think about, like, do you ever get into commercial real estate?
You know, I've never been interested in a commercial real estate. There's a different risk factor to
Mm.
commercial real estate. Typically, if you see a market start to tip, that's going to be kind of the first thing. It's interesting because if you're looking at, the stock market,
Mm.
the first kind of indicator that you see that a market might tip is you start to see things show up in transportation. Right? Because transportation, if you think about just a supply chain, you're going to see a little bit of an eruption with that, and then you're going to see kind of a trickle down effect into the economy and then down to the retail,
Mm-hmm.
which the retail runs about 70% of the GDP in the United States. So you can kind of like almost breadcrumb it. Same thing happens in the real estate market is you start to see a little bit of wonkiness in commercial real estate, and then it's kind of, a little bit of an indicator as far as residential. However, I do know a lot of people who have done well with it, especially if they do like almost a combo.
Mm.
Sometimes you can get the real estate and then you can rent the top or
Mm.
so I like unique, as I said in the beginning, I like unique circumstances. So if it fits something like that, I like even what you're talking about with like owning you sort of in your dream home now, and then maybe you just rent it out for 3 or 4 months, and I take that and I double dip with that money. I'd put it in the market.
Mm.
Mm.
Like putting, 40, $50,000 in the market, you'll be a millionaire before you know it, just from the market, and then you'll have the real estate. Like I like to sort of like
Diversify.
figure out creative ways where, yeah, diversify, but also how can I double this and then double this and double this?
I love that. I,
10x that shit.
yeah, 10x that shit. Are you pretty bullish on crypto?
Yeah,
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 I've had pretty
yeah,
much shockers on crypto, but I love it. And
yeah.
I'm dollar cost averaging, but I just used
Good.
all of it to put into this house. But yeah,
Well,
When
got you in.
yeah.
when you choose, say when you invest in the market, what influences your choices?
Well, it's really going to depend on the economy is the biggest thing because, like, if you've seen, I don't know if you saw the news, but like there's been like a shit show going on here
Mm-hmm.
in the US with
Mm.
like, tariffs and
Tariffs
all
and
kinds
yeah.
of stuff like that. The market dropped and the market went back up. And so you're going to have situations like that. But politics is not the market. And what happens is people confuse the two. And you hear people having conversations, especially if you hear people having conversations that, let's say they don't, I would say they really don't totally understand what they're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to hear people mix the market and politics, and it's going to be all one conversation.
Mm.
And it's like, no, it's a
It's
car
so
and it's a
different.
truck,
Yeah.
right? So I really, look at like what's the main driver? The main driver is the overall economy. So I'm always looking at the macroeconomic, which is like, okay, what's the broad picture? And then I'm looking for, there's 11 market sectors. And so basically there are buckets in the market, like technology, financial, energy, things like that, right? And so what happens is as the economy starts to shift, then there'll be a bias towards these different sectors. And so what you'll do is it's kind of like if you think about it like a bunch of buckets with oranges and you've got, they're full to the top and you're going to take some out and put it in a different bucket. And so you're not really selling out of the portfolio because I don't sell out of the portfolio. What I do is I'm just keep adding and adding,
Mm-hmm.
but I'm shifting it, but I'm very strategic when I shift it. Like, because I envision myself, this is how I see it. I envision a portfolio as um, it's an army of soldiers. And so, if you were the leader of an army, you would understand that you fundamentally have different types of soldiers, right? I mean, you can go all into it. So it's like we want to have different types of stock in there, and we don't want to be dictated by one soldier. So you don't want to be dictated by what's Tesla doing.
Mm.
Don't take that as an overall read on the market and don't get emotionally
Mm.
charged by it and hung up on it.
Mm.
Like you have to understand that you have that whole fundamental thing. And I think once you understand that, you can, I feel a lot of what's going on. So I combine it with economics and just finance. And then I can typically, like, I can feel what's going to come. Like, I started shifting into different sectors, and I started, helping the spiritual investor students shift in probably 8 months ago. And
Mm.
that really started a lot better in this that we went through this last week. Um, I also bought quite a bit of stock on Tuesday because, I'm like, I'm not afraid.
Mm.
I know that whatever money I invest, I'm just gonna bring that money back in. So there's no stake in the game for me other than expansion.
Mm.
Like that's all there is. It's like Jeff Bezos. It's like he's like, I can't understand why people don't invest when the downside risk is zero and the upside risk is unlimited. Like who wouldn't take that deal?
Mm.
If you really think about it, like who wouldn't take that deal?
I think it's short term. People are thinking very short term with
Yeah.
crypto, stocks, and things like that. But like I remember reading Tony Robbins' book Money, and he's like, if you had invested $1,000 in the '70s, you'd be a multi-millionaire now in any of the stocks, pretty much. So he's like, it's
Yes.
just a waiting game. So if someone's like invests like 50 grand of their money right now, that's a lot for someone, and then they're thinking, okay, in 3 years I want to double it, and it doesn't. It goes up 10 grand or something like that. They would, they're like, oh, well, it's not worth it. But if you leave it in there for 30 or 20, 30 years, and that's if they pick a terrible stock, obviously. Because I know there's been people that have made, even friends I know that have made a lot of money on crypto. I haven't though. I've been probably swayed by the politics thing.
Mhm.
Just doing like stupid things, like pulling it out when it's low and then,
Yeah.
oh,
I
it's
mean,
funny.
what I put like 11 grand in, how everyone knew, like everyone, like when crypto, like before, before I had that big plummet a few years ago, like everyone knew, nah, man, you're going to do this and you'll do well. And I was like, all right, I can lose 10 grand. Let's chuck in 10 grand. I chucked in
Yeah.
11 grand. Now it's probably worth like, I don't know, 4 or 5 grand. I don't look at it and I don't care. And
No.
I'm not emotionally attached to it.
No.
But another one of those things there was no at all. I didn't do any research. There was no spiritual heart. There was no, it was for money, purely for money,
Well, and your intuition and your interest and your curiosity, like there was some energy behind it.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. The energy was like, it was
Good
a gamble.
feeling.
It was fun, It was like,
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
yeah.
That's energy of money
Yeah,
for
okay,
sure.
okay.
Yeah. That,
And
sorry.
you're talking about like the short term, and I'll just offer this because I see so
Please.
many
Yeah.
people getting this short term thing, getting sort of bringing that up, and I think it's interesting because the short term game is earned income.
Yeah. Yeah. If it's positive, eh?
People think they're avoiding the short term game
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
investing. Like investing is not actually a short term game. Like when you, if we zoom out, what are we trying to do here? We're trying to expand money. So you have choice number one over here. You can go and trade your time and energy and you can get money, right? So then what you're doing is you're expanding money because you're trading your time and your effort.
Mhm.
Or you can put money over here in the stock market and then you're expanding money and then you're putting in arguably a lot less energy, right? Either way, that's all we're doing is we're expanding money. There's really no such thing as a short-term gain because
Mm.
I just had a student who she just um, sold her stocks in her investing account and paid off all of her debt.
Mhm.
So
Amazing.
she doesn't feel like it's a short-term gain, right? It's really a perception in terms of what does short mean to someone and, and what are you really trying to do with the money? Because I think we get into these labels
Mm.
that prevent us from being wealthy because we feel like we don't want to play a short-term game
Yeah.
when trading our energy is the
The
worst thing
ultimate.
that
Yeah.
we could possibly be doing?
Oh, I know. Hey,
Yeah.
it's so true.
And you're grateful because you did so much of it.
Yeah.
You know, I used to be a scaffolder. So before I got into the bodywork field
Oh, yeah.
and like I was
Yeah.
literally looking back on it now, almost like, oh yeah, I was like when we talk about the Matrix,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I was almost a slave of the Matrix,
Yeah.
paying my spine and my shoulder in a young man's game, you know, for money and not a lot of money, you know.
Yeah.
And I was lucky that when we talk about the archetypes, I was playing the prostitute archetype, but I was paying for my education. So I went to the mines. What you do in Australia here is the mines. It's the culture to go to the mines because it's a way you can make good money relative to a 9 to 5
And get paid and pay a lot of
Yes.
tax.
and save money because they pay for your food and flights and everything. So you're not spending any money. But it's a quick path to. It's not no one really loves doing it. You're eating camp food, even though it tastes good. It's shit. You know, your body. You're paying for your body. And the culture was when I was in school, you get a job, you go to the mines, and you get your house, and you're rich. You're the rich person then, you know, because now you got a house that you can pay off in 10 years instead of 20 years. You know, that was such a strong belief, and that's still the belief. That's still the belief to the older generation until you've been opened up to what's possible, right? Like since we got corrective, now we're opened up to what's possible. But that was like an epiphany. That was like, oh shit, I can put in work. When we talk short term, I have friends that tell me, you just pump because you know it's good money. Like you know, it's $250 an hour to work one-on-one as clients, and I got friends that tell me, man, just pump out clients all day, you know, just do that. Look how good coin that is. But I understand that when I do that, I don't go home and jump on the computer and start editing or do things that I won't see the benefits straight away. But I know 6 months from now, when we got 2,000 more followers, whatever, or 10,000 more followers because of this work, that equals 50 grand more, you know, but I can feel that, but it's hard to see that. But I know that's the truth. I know, otherwise I don't study. If I do say 5 clients in a day, I'm not going to go home and study about the shoulder, even though my soul wants me to, my passion, I love it. I'll sit down and read a book about the shoulder and I love it, you know, and someone will find that so boring, but I know if I pump out clients for the money, for the prostitute archetype, which is still good money, I don't do that extra stuff. So I'm aware of that. And I'm aware that the extra stuff is what's helped build it into this today for both of us, you know? We both got our thing. And when you drain yourself for the money, you just don't do that extra stuff. And, but why was I saying that? It sort of segued into something else. But basically...
Well, it's interesting because none of that feels short term to you. So it's a perception because you're enjoying it.
That's right. Yeah.
So we have to ask ourselves, if we're enjoying anything, is it really short term? And so if someone thinks that it's short term, then they're just not really connected to it's the problem.
Yeah. People don't look at time as a value. And that's the biggest value we have. You ask any billionaire, would you give half of your net worth, or all of it, away to be 20 again? And everyone says yes. Yeah. So it's like, I mean, unless you're really in touch with the next stage of death or life, going to the ethereal world. But I mean, you know, it is important to realize that time is important. And if you're not loving what you're doing, you're trading your time on this planet, which we could only have one of, to be miserable. And that makes no sense to me. I remember Dad took me out and he's like, I was driving a Bobcat and I was like, cool, Bobcats. I did 2 hours of it and I just started crying. I was lifting these rocks up and I was like, oh, I don't want to be here. Like, I was like, there's something wrong with me for being, you know, not wanting to work hard or something. But it wasn't that I didn't want to work hard. That was not my passion.
Yeah. Well, it's so great that you saw that.
Yeah, but as a confused young kid, and I'm sure people could relate, it's like, you're like, fuck, my dad's a hard worker. Like, he just goes and works all day and he's happy as Larry. Like, well, it turns out he wasn't, but I mean, just asking those conscious questions, I think that, you know, I think that's why we built this business, is to have these conversations and open up about this kind of stuff to help people. And another thing I wanted to touch on too is, like, I see in you that you're happy and you're healthy and everything. And so you've got, you know, you're the spiritual investor, so you've got money, you're investing and stuff like that. Like we talked about it the other day, it's like, that's the number one important thing, is having that balance. And I think there's people out there that, like, we know people with a lot of money, but they're just like that. it's all about money. There's no health. There's no happiness. There's no family, tribe. It's like,
and it's weird. They look up to us sort of because we're into health and they want the health.
Yes.
They're like,
Right.
oh, how do you do that? Like, it's like you almost feel like a father figure to them, and they're like a multimillionaire,
Yes.
but because they're not in control of a workout or what they put in their mouth. But when they touch on that world, they love it. They're like addicted to it, but then they fall back off. But at the same time, I'm like, teach me I'll teach you about that, and you teach me about this.
yeah, it's all one thing.
Yeah.
Hey, yeah, I'm very, very intrigued with what you do. It's so good.
Yeah. And I think what you said before, and this is the feeling I got that made me feel so nice when you were talking about your portfolio and the pie, really what you're talking about is safety and security. And that is what we all feel good about,
So
right?
true.
Like when you're saying if everything's invested in one thing, there's always a little bit, oh, what if? But if that goes down, you're safe here. Like my dad's always spoke to me about silver and gold for years. He's always been like a doomsday guy, and he's always been on like he's never had money, right? But he's been on the dole my whole life. But I didn't grow up with him. He separate from my mum, but he was always around for sure. But he's always just told me the day's coming, rah, like the dollar's dropping. You got to make sure you put like silver and gold and all these sort of things. And to be honest, I have a personal goal where I want 100K worth of either silver or gold, purely nothing about the money, just so I feel
the
safe.
safety.
Because I know whatever dollar drops, I can turn this into something. I can turn this into food. I can turn this into enough for a few years that everyone can feel safe. And I think when you talk about the stock market portfolio, that's what I feel like. Oh, that bombs you. At least you got this, or I got the property here doing this, and something that can't just implode on itself. Because if one section implodes, it's like Warren Buffett says, don't put all your, eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
That, and I think really that's what we're all striving for, and what we all want is that. And I can see it in you.
Yeah.
I can see you got that security there in your energy.
Yeah, in your energy, and you can build out from that, because that's like what we said at the start of the podcast was like tribal association, safety, security, shelter, thermoregulatory system. Like you need to feel safe in this world, and that used to be thousands of years ago, tribe and family and tents and
food.
Community and food. It was so simple, but now it is money. It has to be money.
Yes.
Because that's what what buys you food. That's what gives you time. It's like, it's just different now. But if you see it like that and you understand that when your first chakra is safe, then you start moving up into your heart chakra, which is obviously where you're at, where you're helping people. So it's like, it's important.
It's like,
yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, were you going to say something then, or?
You guys, you couldn't even say it better. I mean, you're just so on point with it. I'm so glad that you're talking about this, because like financial freedom isn't an amount, because everybody's lifestyle is different and something could happen and you're off target with that amount. Like what you were talking about when you were talking about, you wanted 100K of like silver and gold, like your energy shifted, like your energy came down into you. It's really powerful. And so that's how you build a portfolio. You get behind energetically and you just go diversification to the point where the economy can't touch you because you've got land, you've got real estate, you've got gold, you've got crypto, you've got stocks, you've got bonds, you've got cash, all of this stuff. But you can't get tripped up on having to have all of it now. You got to figure out that starting with that goal. See, when I see the energy come through in someone, I'm like, that's your starting place. Like, I don't have all these financial rules, because if you get your energy behind something, you'll do it, and you will have 100K of gold or silver. You will. I can tell already. Like, I can feel that. So, because you carry that with you.
Yeah, I actually visualized it this morning. I visualized seeing it and like, oh, I feel safe. I feel safe,
Yeah.
And like we spoke about this before, like we got a product called Queen, and like half of our following, more than half of our following is female. And like when we talk about girls wanting money, that's really, you're talking about evolution, and that's food, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I always put myself in the position of whatever it is, the other person. And because I grew up with my mum and my sister, and my mum was the provider. So she worked for a full-time job and then raised us, cooked dinner. I don't know how she did it now. I look back on that, right? My dad was there he was there not financially, but he always was there for love. He would drive us places and things like that, you know. But he gave me more than money. He gave me personality and gave me curiosity and gave me stuff with the body that ended up giving me way more than he could have financially. So I have no inclination of any victimhood of money with that, because I reckon he gave me more than what he could have with money. But I think about like the woman that has to have a child, and if she wants to have a child, of course that guy has to be grounded in that, because when you see crew that are always on the pokes or things like this. When I say pokes, pokies.
Yeah.
And it's like that you would feel so unsafe as a female seeing a guy being reckless like that and thinking I'm going to have a child with him, he's going to keep me safe and he's going to do this, because back to the safety and security. Like even if you had 100K worth of silver and gold, the girl in your life would feel so much more secure too, because I've seen it, man. You see, like imagine having to work also. Imagine being a pregnant woman and having to work to pay for that $1 million house you bought at the highest interest rate ever. Also,
Yeah.
like it's
stressful.
almost a trap of like dynamic and it'll just go strange. And it's so common now. I mean, it's so common. There's like, let's go 50-50 in this. Let's do this. But I'm like, fuck, that doesn't feel right. Because they're back to evolution. I'm always referring back to evolution. It's like, that doesn't make sense. What, you're going to get her to go hunting with you? She's going to hold the mammoth tusk while you cut its throat? Like, that's the way I feel it. Like,
I think like it's definitely a multivariate equation these days. Like it's very shifting. Like, and I do agree. Like the old school values are important to me, but I think that nowadays there's masculine energy in women and there's feminine energy in men. And I think that there is a balance there. Like you could find the balance where you just work as a team.
Yeah.
I think like it needs to look like what it needs to look like for you and your family. But yeah, I do see, I think it's more of a thing of like men stepping up and being a leader in other ways as well. But yeah, it's such a tricky one, but so good.
Yeah. And that culture, like we were never opened up to that.
Yeah.
Remember
for sure.
In school, that was never an idea. It was just like, you're all just equal and you do this and you're all going to do this, you know, but
it's true.
There was never a thought of, like, listen, you're a man. Like you got to make sure, I know you shouldn't have to get told that, but you definitely don't hit women. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
You definitely don't do this. You don't do this.
Instilled.
It should be almost like, it's like just known in your DNA, but it's almost not. It's like in school, everything's different. So it's weird to get opened up to that from elders, from people like, oh, that sounds right to us. You know?
It feels right.
Yeah.
Is it? Do you have a husband?
No. But I love that you're talking about this, the masculine and the feminine, because I see the people that I see that are the most successful with money, whether it's a male or a female, have brought the element of both together, in a way that actually creates a neutral system.
Cool.
And anytime you have a neutral system, it's like a void. Like, if you think of like a battery, like energy travels from one area of a battery to the other because there's a void, right? There's something drawing it in. And so money moves in the same way. And creating that void and that neutrality is created from, there is a rising of, because I think there's a difference in divine masculine and then there's the old school masculine. Same thing with women. Like you see, women really didn't used to support women. They were awful. Like I worked with people like that, right? It's just like, talk about, is this, so then you have like the old school feminine, you have the divine feminine, but like women actually, I think, do really well, especially when it comes to money and investing, when they are tapping into that divine masculine, which is being a little bit less apologetic, not waiting for permission, not judging themselves, like really like get behind it kind of thing, right? Not looking for the validation. And what I see is that men actually do a lot better in investing if they will stop taking so much pressure off of themselves when it comes to the returns and the numbers and always having to make it look a certain way and all of that. And so I love working with both because it's all energy. and seeing someone open up to like, because a lot of it, like nobody feels good if they're being hard on themselves. Nobody feels good if they're holding themselves back, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think we're ultimately like, when we're unhappy, we're just living in an inauthentic life
Yeah.
because you can't be living an authentic life and actually be unhappy. It's not even possible.
It's
And so
so
we're
true.
moving towards that by discovering the feminine and the masculine in us. But I love the way that people are now approaching things. So I'm glad you brought
Yeah.
this up.
It's evolution. It's new, it's different.
It's,
And
it is.
just to touch on that, we went over on Spirituum yesterday, the Hanged Man card. Do you know much about tarot?
A
Well,
little
yeah,
bit. I mean, I have the tarot cards, but
yeah. Well, it's like after the hangman is death, and the hangman is like basically a guy hanging upside by one foot with his hands tied behind his back. Allegedly, his hands are tied, but you always have the power of choice. So you can, if they're tied, they are. If they're not, they're not. But the death card comes knocking, which is like a rebirth or the death of a relationship or literal death or a sickness, a death of an
Mhm.
organ. It could be cancer. It could be anything. But the hangman is the unauthentic life, the life that you like. So I love what you said there about you can't be unhappy. What was it again? You can't be unhappy
When you live in
when you're living an authentic life. And I think
Yeah,
it
it's not
comes
possible.
down to that it being as simple as that because like Zach Bush said that too. He's like, it's all energy. It's all life force
Yeah,
energy. If you've got energy running through you and you're excited, it's like you're not going to get sick. It'd be
Yeah.
really weird if you got sick, if you were getting up every day being stoked and just, you know what I mean? I think, I don't know, I could bite my own words there because I know there is people that have just randomly got sick, but that could be a past life thing. It could be anything, you know what I mean? But
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's hard to be unhappy when you're living an authentic life. That's so true.
yeah, that's a t-shirt right
That's,
there.
yeah, I
There's another
know.
t-shirt.
That'll be the snippet for the
Yeah,
podcast.
we'll give you equity on the t-shirt.
You want to invest?
exactly.
I'd love to like for advice for people listening. What's the biggest word of advice you could give people that are stepping into this investing world, or just whatever you can give them in general?
If they're stepping into the investing world, I would assume that they're interested in a different life. So they're interested in kind of like, okay, what's this new thing over here? Um, I would say try not to get it right because I think that I see so many people stand on the sidelines because they feel like if they buy a stock or let's say they invest $1,000 or something and then they lose it
Mm,
or it goes down because you're not going to effectively lose it. It's not going to go to
Mm,
zero. But
mm,
let's say you lose $100 or whatever, and you're not really losing it. It's an
yeah.
unrealized loss. It's in your account. People make they make that mean something about them.
mm.
Mm.
And then what that does is it's just playing small. It's like not hitting the basketball goal and then standing there in the middle of the game and beating yourself up the whole time. Like,
Yeah.
why
Yeah,
would you do that?
Yeah.
You don't
yeah.
do that. Like you move on. And so I think, and that is one thing. And also realizing that um you can actually own shares of the largest companies in the world for about the same amount that you are dropping at dinner on a Wednesday night, and it's a shitty dinner. You don't even really like it.
Mm,
So it's like, I think we got to like get in reality with um, what do you want your life to be and put it really in perspective. Because if you buy a $200 stock, and it goes up to 220, don't pat yourself on the back because you're not a financial wizard.
mm,
And if
Mm.
it goes down to 180, don't beat yourself up because you've done nothing wrong. You still own a share of an amazing company,
mm.
Mm.
And
and
Yeah.
it's fascinating because like, people were so afraid with the market going down here and then the market came back up and all this. But if you look at history, like if you look back to 1950, every single time after the market goes down, within 3 years, it goes up 70%. Within 5 years, it goes up 125%.
mhm.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's the largest wealth train in that we've ever known in history. It's just, I don't know why people wouldn't be putting their money into it.
And why is no one talking about it? Like when I think of stocks until now, I've always been like, oh, it's risky.
Yeah,
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 it's like
yeah.
especially the mentality down here, and yeah, it's just not really spoken about. I mean, I read Tony Robbins was huge on it when I read his book Money, but
It's
it
it's a
was
good
too
book.
confusing for me. Like he was just
Yeah.
like talking about like freaking, I don't even know what it's called, like Nasdaq and all sorts of stuff. Like, and I just didn't really understand it. But yeah, it's cool. I'm definitely going to look into it more after this. Hey,
What do you use to, like, yeah, I'm so curious, right? What do you
yeah.
use to, like, to buy stock and whatnot? Like, do you have like an app or something that you use to look at it all, or is there software?
Well, I mean, I use E-Trade, which is over here.
Yeah.
And then there's a website called Seeking Alpha, which I think you guys can get to. I have a lot of Australians in the program.
Cool.
Hmm.
And so they use, it's called Sharesies, which I think is based in New Zealand.
Okay.
Yep.
That seems to be the most popular program among Australians that,
Sharesies.
I've worked with.
Hmm.
Um, and I would say invest in the US stock market and invest in your home market there.
Hmm.
The US stock market is the largest and it's the fastest growing. So you can invest in, the S&P 500 will just give you like the top 500 companies. That's just something really easy to do. Something like SPY, SPYD, something like that. The top companies that pay dividends. So basically
Oh yeah.
a dividend is like it's like a stock where it'll pay you quarterly to own it.
Hmm.
So I would start with something like that. And then, as you can buy an index fund in your country too. Or a lot of people like to just maybe they'll invest some in like some of the bigger banks or something, like something a little bit more
Hmm.
steady.
Stable.
Um, it's kind of like you're looking for that feeling that you had when you talked about gold. Like,
Mm.
what are you going to be excited about? Because that's honestly like, and Warren Buffett talks about this all the time, is like really we the moment of reckoning is when the market goes down and having people not sell because they get afraid.
Yeah.
So if you are connected to something and you have a story behind it,
Mm.
like you're like the gold, you're going to be less likely to make that typically a bad decision when you're feeling pushed into a corner. And that actually is going to determine your wealth. And so it's kind of like for me, I'm like, start it good from the beginning because here's another thing. I don't want to keep putting energy into it. Like when I buy a stock, I'm behind it and then I get to go do something else.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Berkshire has been my favorite stock for years and years and years, Berkshire Hathaway. I'm always buying it. I don't look at the price. Like it's a great stock,
Yeah.
Amazon, something like that. Like
Mm.
pick your good stocks and just dollar cost average into them.
That's cool.
Yeah, I think my sister has like an app where like every time she buys like a coffee, it just puts up to the next
Yep, you
dollar
can do that too.
Oh,
and it
rounds it
Yeah.
up. Yeah.
rounds it
Yeah.
out and
Yeah.
goes into like a stock thing. She showed me, she's like, look at this, it's only worth this. I'm like, fuck, that's not bad,
That
eh?
that's so sick. It's like
Yeah, it's a
because
bit fun.
I picture like this new company we're getting involved in, and also which is our company, and Corrective, and I think about stocks like that after just what you said. Then it's like why, well, we wouldn't sell this
Mm.
because we believe in it so much. You
Yes,
know what I mean? It's like it's
exactly.
exactly the same with stocks. It's like I could get behind. Like I really like Nvidia, the processors
Yes.
for gaming because I just know I believe in it and we play it and we love it. And it's just like I could get behind that and I'd understand that. You know what I mean?
What's Nvidia?
It's the graphics cards that make
Oh, like all like future gaming
they
stuff.
make all the PCs that play like PC
Oh,
gaming and
right.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
Although consoles would probably be catching
Yeah.
up.
Yeah.
But
Maybe.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
it's cool. You could do your research and actually get behind something. That makes a lot of sense because crypto for me is just like I believe in Bitcoin. I don't know that much about Ethereum, but Bitcoin I think is crazy. But and XRP as well. But yeah, I'm just like I don't know too much about it, and it's really kind of hard to get behind it like a stock, I reckon,
mm,
'cause
yeah.
it's way more volatile.
Well, I
Yeah,
love your take on it,
yeah,
actually. And it's a lot easier to get behind kind of the way that you're explaining it too,
Mm.
because what you're doing is you're saying, okay, I have this money over here. So I have this $1,000. I'm going to go let this very successful company use my money. and then they're going to make money off of that, which is the same thing that you're doing with your business.
Yeah.
But why not do that with 50 other businesses, because that's
Makes
effectively
sense.
what you're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, that's so true. Hey?
True. Is there any people that like stuff that you reckon people should read or look into, or whether it's your own work or other people's work that obviously we'll talk about your own program and whatnot, but resources that you loved personally for your own personal development?
I base a lot of my stuff based on just what I did, and I had so much financial, I had a lot, went through all the financial exams and all of that, so I kind of bring in the knowledge from there. Um, and I would say the spirituality as well. Neville Goddard.
Yep.
I listen to him so much
Yeah.
lately.
Love him.
So much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's definitely my cornerstone. Alan Watts.
Yeah.
Uh, Another big one. Sometimes I'll flip on like Abraham if I'm just like especially if I'm like in like an emotional low or something, because
Yeah.
even just the voice. And so
Yeah.
I think it's having like these kind of things to draw from. I think we're about to see, and I'm actually incorporating this into the spiritual investor, how to use AI when it comes to investing and how to actually let that do a lot of
Buying, selling.
getting to know your stock list and helping it do a lot of heavy lifting
Mm-hmm.
as far as that. So I think that's actually it's almost like that's gonna be helping us a lot with investing coming up.
Mm.
And I do think that you're still gonna have to bring in that divine feminine though, as far as intuition
Mm.
and getting behind things. But you mentioned the Tony Robbins book. I mean, that's a really great book as well. I just, what's funny is that I've read all of Warren Buffett. I've read all of those books and all that, but like I don't really think this stuff is that complicated.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I don't really have this drive to keep going out and like reading one more
Yeah.
Mm.
financial book because it's all kind of the same. It's as long as it's based on foundational principles. So I would say the way that I teach is very much the Warren Buffett is kind of the foundational, which is build up a stock account, keep putting money in, have it where it's growth, but it's also there's a stability element, and then go off and do life. And then it's just
Mm.
making wealth for you in the background.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to do day trading. I don't want to be picking, I don't want to be looking at it all the time because I've got other things to do. Um, but I think that this stuff is not really that complicated. And I think that hopefully that's something that I help people do, which is realize that the financial world I think that they've made it complicated because then you're going to kind of pay them to do something, right?
Yep.
But like the veil has been brought back and you can go literally pick out 20 to 30 great stocks in 10 minutes. I think I invested 50,000 on Tuesday and it took me 8 minutes.
Wow. So that's
It's like,
intuition right there. There's
Yeah.
your feminine energy coming through.
I mean, it's all positioning. It's like I was positioned. I knew how I felt about it. I've been watching the economy. I have a strategy with my portfolio, so I'm in the knowingness of where I'm going to move things around and I'm like, boom, the market dropped and it dropped an enormous amount.
I
And I'm
saw
like,
that.
okay,
Perfect
it's go
time.
time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then all the normal people are going, fuck, let's pull it.
Oh,
It's
right.
gonna
A
go
lot of
down
people
more.
were wanting to sell,
Yeah.
and I
It's
don't make
crazy.
every decision right, and I don't have a crystal ball,
Yeah.
but I don't know that I want it that way either. Like
Mm.
I'm good with playing the
Mm.
game of life.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's it.
true.
Yeah, the game of life. So for people to learn more about your work or working with you when you talk about these groups, like what are these groups? How do you work with someone, and what do you go through?
So I have it's at thespiritualinvestor.com.
Mm-hmm.
And so I have three different levels because it really depends on where you are, what's your level of commitment, and also how much guidance do you really want. I have the SI Club, which is $17. And you can go in there and I have a Get Started Investing series. I have an
Awesome.
investing community. I go in there and I talk about a lot of this stuff and I answer a lot of questions really just trying to keep people like on track and just like moving forward, like helping them with the momentum of like what they're trying to achieve. And so that is kind of a no-brainer
Mhm.
because, you can go in and just, it's a lot of value for what you get.
Mm.
And then I have like what's called SI Advanced, and that is where you've decided, okay, like I am going to become an investor. Like that's going to be part of my world. That's almost going to be like I always tell people, I'm like, think of it like it's like your own business because really, if you become an investor, that's a wealth channel and you can see that as your own business. But
Mm.
you're going to want to put a certain amount of attention into that,
Mm.
right? And so that's where you get into more of the portfolio design and you've got like more stocks that you're learning about how to choose stocks and things like that. So that's a great place for someone who's a little bit more serious about it. And you're going to learn all about the markets all over, like we talk about all the different markets. And then I have a mastermind, which, is not that many people. And I just basically, it's a workshop type environment, and I just guide you through it. Like you've
Mhm.
set up all of your investing accounts, you get the whole pie chart done. Like,
That's
you're
sick.
basically aimed, locked, and loaded.
Yeah.
You know?
Do you have like I
Amazing.
remember Earl? Do you know Earl Nightingale?
I have heard of him. Yeah.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
like I think never got hard times, that sort of vibe. He actually
Yeah.
did I've spoke about it before. It's an amazing thing on YouTube if you ever want to listen to it, but it's called The Strangest Secret.
I've heard it. It's so good,
Oh yeah,
isn't
it's that.
it?
Yeah, yeah.
Mm.
So that was
It's so
actually
good. Yeah.
the first audio recording of mankind to hit a million views. Isn't that amazing?
Really.
Besides music,
Yeah.
or just someone talking like
Yeah.
it's like the first basically self podcast where it got a million views.
Yeah.
Love
And
it.
I listen to it pretty often, and it just uplifts you. It makes you feel good. His whole thing's basically goals, have intentions, and it sort of happens. But I remember, I think maybe he said something about 10% of whatever you're earning, just put that aside or invest or whatever. Do you
Mm.
have like a percentage safety and security number that you would tell someone? Okay, if I earn $1,000 a week, let's say I got $1,000 to spare on top of all my bills and everything left over. Is that where you would use, say, is there a percentage or something that you'd work with of that?
Well, I mean, one way that I do it, and I have some calculators, that you can actually just reverse into, well, what do you need in retirement?
Mm-hmm.
That's one way to look at it.
Mm.
Um, I don't really believe in like traditional retirement. I don't think we want to like be
No.
65 and sit in a rocking
I
chair
know.
anymore.
Fuck that.
So it's like, okay,
Mm.
put money in those accounts. But like, I am also interested in having personal investing accounts that like it's kind of like you're locked and loaded. Like it becomes an asset that you have access to anytime.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd be a personal investing account. And also, if you want to retire early, so let's just say or maybe something happened with your job or whatever, and you want to start taking income off of that, you can do that at any age.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's a little bit,
Mm.
more of the focus there. Um, I would say it's really challenging to say a percentage because I think the moment that you say a percentage, somebody is going to feel like they're not doing it right one more time.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody who can't meet that is going to be left on the sideline because they're going to be like, oh, that's, like I could say 10% or 15% is going to give you XYZ, but it's like I'm more interested in why are you not prioritizing you? Because money is self-love. And if you're not taking care of yourself by allowing yourself to receive money, if you start there and you really have somebody look at the money management aspect from a perspective of, I actually have everything that I need. I have a really abundant life. But what is this new version of me going to say in terms of priorities? Like, I'm not who I was last week. The most powerful, authentic version of me has a different priority list than the old version. I really want people deciding from there. And then, yes, can you put in 10%?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you can't, but don't feel less if you can only do one because you're still on the journey and wealth is not linear.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone who has earned wealth, it's gone like this and like this and like this, and you feel like everybody feels the doomsday, no matter how much money you have. And I think that that's the illusion is that wealthy people have no problems when it comes to money, and that's just that's not true at all.
Yeah. It's so true. It's so true. Fuck, that's good, man. That feels good.
Yeah, it feels good. And
Yeah.
like, I guess trying to attach a feeling back to this Neville stuff, like the feeling, like I want the feeling of safety and security to that level.
Yeah.
And I want the feeling of being able to unlock a life to my loved ones that's unique, where you can just pay for the dinner for everyone, or like you take your whole family to bloody Europe for a month and have the freedom. That's why I want it.
I know.
You know?
And a lot of my clients, like I always ask them, like, what's your why? Like, why are you even here? What do you want?
Yes.
Like, do you want like $1 million? Like, what are you going to do with that? Do you want a family? Like, and you'd be so surprised. Like 90% of people just like, well, I don't really know. And Paul always says like,
exactly.
Ask them what they don't want and you'll figure out what they do want. I was like,
right.
That's pretty spot on. But yeah, it's like, get clear on what you want. And I love, this has been an awesome podcast.
Yeah, it feels good. It's like, it's so funny. The podcast is so cool. You get to just talk to people and their things, you know? And then you just grab from it, and then it inspires you. And now I'm going to be like the rest of this day, I'm going to be looking into stocks. And what was that app you said is
Sharesies.
from Sharesies?
Yeah.
I'll look into that.
Check that one out.
You've just unlocked a new thing I didn't know I was into, but I'm pretty into it. Because it was always just dad listening to this shit on the weird channel growing up of like these ups and downs, and it was all so boring.
Yeah.
But that sounds way better.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
I always looked at stocks as like old school, but that's a good thing, right?
Yeah. And again, I had that feeling of, oh, what do you mean? Can't you just lose it all? Because I guess you hear about the movies and the feelings of people losing it all in the stock market and losing it all. But if it's all in there, then you are going to lose it all. Or you're not going to lose it all, but it's that one risk where everything's in one basket type vibe.
Yeah.
And I guess that doesn't happen too often, does it? Like when you talk about it being pretty safe, you're talking longer term, aren't you?
Yeah.
Like if it does crash, it's going to end up from using history as a reference point.
Well, I mean, the stock market for the last 100 years has gone up 10%
Yeah.
every year, on average, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so you can pretty much bank on that. And as far as like losing it all, it's interesting because I hear people say that, but like, I mean, is it really even possible? Like, if a company, it's always going to have assets that the company owns. It's going to have equity in the company. There's going to be cash. There's going to be like, how can Amazon go down to zero when they have all these assets?
Yeah.
There's going to be some like liquid value of the company. So I think it's interesting because typically the people that I find that talk about the risk in the stock market, if you really look at their life, they're living the riskiest life because they're living paycheck to paycheck. And so they have to wait for somebody else to make a decision. Like somebody else literally holds their fate in their hands. Like you get fired, you don't put food on the table. How is that risky? Versus like you do not hear wealthy people. I've never heard a wealthy person talk about the risk of the stock market.
So
Never.
true.
Nice.
And so you've got to look at like it's like it's a bit of an illusion.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And it's controlled by the media. It's controlled by
Matrix.
It's the Matrix, dude.
It is.
It's hectic.
I watched The Matrix recently, probably like 6 months ago, and it hits so different
Yeah.
now. Like when
Really? I was thinking I would do that.
like because it was I was born in 92. It came out in 99. So when I was watching it, I watched it. It was always on TV every year, but I loved it. But I loved it just because I was always attracted to like the hero archetype.
Yeah, for sure.
The man, like always love those type movies. But now I look at it and you see these little scenes that are representing like the bit where he's walking through the city and the girl in the red dress. Yeah. And like all these people, they're all they are people, but they're all plugged in, and anytime they can become an agent of the Matrix. And I was just like,
oh, that's cool.
I was like, whoa, man.
Yeah, I got to watch that again.
Yeah, it's actually so good. Yeah. And it's like one of those things like Lord of the Rings that come out today and it looks like it come out today.
Yeah.
Yeah. You see a little bit of the old school and a couple of the edits, but like other than that, it's on point.
That's so sick.
So it's amazing the illusion that we've been that you can live in, and that I feel like when you talk about this Alan Watts, Abraham Hicks, Neville Goddard, all these people help open my eyes up as a younger man when I first got into this stuff, because it was just, I was raised on the TV, and that was it. So the internet in itself has opened up a lot of wisdom to these old passages of wisdom from people whose truth transcends time, and their legacy lives on today from that sort of stuff.
I know, like, how can you listen to Alan Watts, like truly listen to him, and then be fully attached to outcomes? You can't.
I know.
You're just like, oh God, I don't think it's that serious.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll play the game.
Yeah. And you wake up. Yeah.
That's so good.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. For your time. What a sick potty.
That was awesome.
And we'll be looking deep into your stuff. I'm sure a lot of people will,
Yeah.
And it's really cool to see. You're very inspiring for us, and you've inspired me. And after this, I'm going to go back to the computer and just work. But I love it. I love it. And to do that, to get that, I guess I want the safety and security. That's what it's all coming down to. And I want the portfolio, and I want that. And to create a safe environment for my circle.
Yeah. Let's do another podcast soon. We'll get in touch.
I'm sure a lot of people will write in questions, and we'll get people to ask in questions, and and just fire hit you in the top. So that'd be great. So thanks for coming on. And again, so spiritualinvestor.com, people can find your stuff, and on Instagram, same.
On Instagram, it's just my name, Elizabeth Ralph, and I have the Spiritual Investor podcast. So any of those.
So
epic.
Sick.
Yeah, we'll get on that too.
We'll be tapping in.
Cool.
All right. Thank you. Much love.
Much love. Lovely to meet you.
Thank you. All right. See you guys.
Bye. This podcast was sponsored by Corrective Culture Supplements, also Selective. A new, iconic, unapologetically yourself.
Yeah. So just for you guys listening, we're starting a side supplement company with Kirsty from Javita.
Oh yeah.
Which is amazing. And the intention behind this company is to make like the purest, when we say like, everything's tested, supplements, but in a whole food way.
Yeah.
So we already do that with some things, but Corrective is broad, right? This will purely be supplements. And when we have Javita on standby, it's such a golden, like she's trying to figure out how to make creatine from whole food, which doesn't exist. Because I don't really want to take creatine because it's a synthetic. And I know it has all these benefits and whatnot, but to be honest, I just remember reading that story of that guy in the Reddit forum whose kidneys failed and shit. And
fully.
And then everyone balding.
100%.
Yeah.
Synthetic ain't the way. It's whole foods only.
So that's the intention, and we're going to work hard for that.
Yeah.
And because Kirsty did a test
on the collagens.
On 21 different collagens that we all have, like a super common, the best collagens. And the heaps of them aren't what they say. And they probably haven't paid for the test because it costs like 12 grand or something.
Yeah.
And they're all full of like metals and shit. So basically it's going to be like, how can we make the coolest shit in a whole food way?
Yeah.
And also our Enrich product is coming soon with the oysters.
Oh yeah.
Which is pure oyster, no blends, right? I'm not big on blending the shit because then it just cuts it sounds good. Oh yeah, add a turmeric and all sort of shit. But then you're not getting the oyster, which is what
you're not getting the most nutrient dense thing on the planet.
Yeah. Like I can get I can get turmeric for fucking like pretty cheap, So it sounds good. So we just want to keep it clean. Plus also a lot of people react to random little herbs and veggies and stuff, but no one's going to react to oyster. So
for sure.
Yeah, it gets you strong. And zinc for your immunity, hair. And when you're sick, your body just depletes itself with zinc. So this is nature's source of zinc. So that's why we're big on it. New Zealand oysters.
Let's go. And that was Elizabeth Ralph on our podcast, which was fucking awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, that was
such a good podcast. So
yeah,
I hope you enjoyed. We've got plenty more coming.
Yeah. Thank you. Love yous.
Love you.